Tonight, police make an arrest after two seemingly random attacks.
Appeared at this point to be have targeted two underhoused people in our city.
The victims were slashed in the face. We'll have the details on the man now facing charges. Plus,
I crawl out on my hands and knees to get out.
A downtown fire leaves one man dead, two others in hospital, and several residents displaced. We'll have the latest from the scene. And
just watch this case get dismissed after having our hopes raised. It's really had a very negative impact on our family.
A family is reeling after learning they won't see justice following the death of their loved one at a construction site. The suspect wanted in two downtown attacks has been arrested. Toronto police allege the 21-year-old suspect may have been targeting homeless people downtown. Ali Chiasson reports.
We are seeking the public's assistance in providing any information.
Police have been in pursuit of this man since last Friday after they believe he is the suspect who slashed two homeless people in the face over the weekend.
Appeared at this point to be have targeted two underhoused people in our city. Members of 51 Division and 52 Division have increased patrols along the Yonge corridor. We have spoken to the shelters within 51 Division, providing them with the press release and a photo of the suspect.
With the attacks being so violent and so random, Toronto Police Inspector Kathleen Sarametkovsky advised anyone downtown to be aware of their surroundings.
I don't want members of the public to become complacent. If you see something that's suspicious, please notify the police as soon as you can.
And with that, the news conference ended.
Thank you so much.
But 45 minutes later, the media was called back to the podium for an important update.
I am pleased to inform members of the community that members of 51 Division Toronto Police have arrested a suspect.
21-year-old Matthew McClellan was arrested at home in Toronto.
I was arrested earlier today at about 11:15 by members of our neighborhood officer at 51 Division team and is currently in our custody.
Members of the public had been calling in with tips after seeing McClellan's image on the news, an image that was captured on clear security camera footage along the Yonge Street corridor near the sites of the slashings. All of this led police to his residence downtown.
This has been an extremely successful day for us in that we are able to keep members of the community safe now that we have this individual in custody.
As you can imagine, this news comes as a great relief to the underhoused in this city, as well as the advocates who help them. I mean, it's perilous enough to live outside in Toronto, let alone having an alleged attacker targeting homeless people. Matthew McClellan will have a court appearance later this week. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
A pedestrian was struck and killed by a driver in Mississauga early this morning.
Emergency crews did attend the scene and located an adult male victim who was pronounced deceased, unfortunately. One vehicle was involved. It did remain, and our Major Collision Bureau is on scene conducting the investigation.
It happened shortly before 7 a.m. in the area of Courtney Park Drive East and Edwards Boulevard. Police haven't yet released any details about the victim. A number of people who saw what happened remained at the scene to speak with officers. A woman was killed and a child badly injured in a multi-vehicle collision in North Toronto today.
There was a vehicle that was traveling eastbound on Steeles Avenue West. It struck a transport vehicle, mounted the curb, and ended up continuing eastbound in the westbound lanes. This resulted in a collision with another vehicle that was traveling westbound on Steeles.
It happened around 9 this morning near the corner of Kipling and Steeles. An 85-year-old woman was taken to hospital where she was pronounced dead. Meanwhile, a 2-year-old boy was also transported to hospital. He's being treated for non-life-threatening injuries. Investigators believe the elderly woman's car collided with a truck, then hit another car head-on. Police are asking anyone who witnessed what happened to contact them. The Ontario Fire Marshal is now trying to determine what caused a fatal fire this morning at a downtown apartment building. One person has died and 2 others are in hospital. Greg Ross has the latest.
All I seen was blue flames on a clean floor.
This woman says the fire started in her unit on the 3rd floor of this building on Dundas Street East. According to fire officials, it was around 1:30 this morning.
I was trying to put it out, and I'm like slapping it, and it wasn't gonna go out.
Soon after, the hallways and other units on the 3rd and 4th floors started filling with smoke, sending many people scrambling for the exits.
I had to crawl out on my hands and knees to get out.
Many residents were rescued by firefighters.
They had zero visibility, and they were met with a heavy wall of smoke.
A 40-year-old man could not be saved. He was pronounced dead on the scene. At this point, investigators have not determined where in the building he was when the fire started. 2 other people, including a 70-year-old, were rushed to hospital in life-threatening condition.
One individual is still reported to be in life-threatening condition right now, and the other individual is reported to have had slightly improved and is moving towards stable right now.
Fire crews were able to contain the blaze to just 1 unit, which the fire chief says has been completely gutted. It's expected to take investigators several days to determine what caused this fire, and they're also looking into whether or not this building was following proper fire safety regulations.
They're looking at all of that right now, so they're pulling data from the fire alarm panel, they're interviewing the responding firefighters, they're speaking to the witnesses, and all of that will be brought together with the investigators.
Most residents were allowed to return to their apartments. The fire chief says about 20 have been displaced. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
York police are crediting a business owner for getting a suspected impaired driver off the road.
I got a customer just left my establishment. He's very, very drunk.
Okay, so how do you know he's intoxicated?
He passed out in my locker room. We had to wait for security to wake him up.
Officers arrived to find the man already pulled over to the side of the 407 last week. He was arrested and charged with impaired driving. In the dash cam video they released, officers hold up an open bottle of alcohol. 2 canned alcoholic drinks were also recovered from the man's car. A Coburg family is reeling after learning they won't see justice following the death of their loved one. 33-year-old Christopher Panepinto died on a construction site in Pickering in 2020. The company he was working for was charged after his death, but this month the charges were withdrawn. Chris Glover has this CBC Toronto exclusive.
The shopping mall, the trains, nothing about this place is peaceful, and this is not reflective of Christopher at all.
It pains David Panepinto to visit the Pickering Seniors Home his brother Christopher helped build until his death. On February 10th, 2020, Christopher was killed when a retaining wall on the then job site fell, crushing him beneath it.
It's like losing Christopher again. You know, we lost him and now we lost the chance for justice.
Last week, charges stemming from the incident against the construction company were withdrawn due to a judicial rule established by Canada's Supreme Court in 2016. It states provincial offences must be tried within 18 months, or they could be tossed.
18 months is not a very long period of time, and to just watch this case get dismissed after having our hopes raised, it's really had a very negative impact on our family.
In an email from the Crown Counsel to the Panepinto family, the Crown wrote they were unable to attribute a sufficient portion of the court delays to the defense and or to COVID. It's the abysmal and unacceptable lack of judicial resources in the Whitby Provincial Offences Court that significantly delayed the matter. The local courthouse, meanwhile, wouldn't comment, but said it was operating at less than 50% capacity compared to pre-pandemic times. The ministry also refused an interview, saying the Ontario Court of Justice has exclusive authority over the scheduling of court proceedings. Meantime, that court would only refer CBC News back to the ministry. The Panepinto family has been caught in this vacuum of non-answers for weeks, especially infuriating since the construction company was previously charged in 2 other worker fatalities in 2005.
It's very frustrating to have no answers and no accountability whatsoever.
Nearly 3 years since Christopher's death, his family knows little about what happened. Answers they hope to get during a trial that now will never happen. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
The Financial Accountability Office of Ontario says extreme rainfall will add billions of dollars to the province's wastewater infrastructure repair bill this decade.
Global emissions will have a significant impact on public infrastructure costs. Limiting climate change and getting infrastructure ready to handle the climate impacts we already know are coming will save money in the long run.
It says climate change could cost municipalities millions of dollars more if they don't spend money to maintain water and sewer infrastructure. The lead author of the report says Ontario will also see more rain and more extreme storms, something he describes as a 100-year storm event. It costs Ontario $3 billion a year to keep its water and sewer infrastructure in good repair. But as rainfall increases, expensive upgrades will be needed to avoid flooding. Meteorologist Colette Kennedy joins us now for a look at the forecast. And it was nice to see the sun today, but I definitely needed to bundle up.
As long as you stayed in that sunshine today, the winds weren't too strong and it felt pretty good. But the minute you get into the shade, yeah, a little bit of a wind chill factor there, really knocking those temperatures down. But okay, daytime highs, well, for Toronto, -1. And overnight tonight, we are going to see that temperature slide again, similar to last night. So lows -6 to -8 to 9 is what we'll be looking at. But tomorrow is still a quiet day before what is coming. And so this is the storm system that will be moving in for Thursday in terms of the impact it's going to have on the GTA and all across these areas through eastern and southwestern Ontario, with poor travel conditions, slippery roadways, heavy snowfall in certain areas, with snowfall rates being pretty significant, so meaning the snow comes down too quickly for plows to be able to deal with it, winds gusting, blowing the snow around, reducing visibility, and also that freezing rain risk, and especially seeing that closer to the lakeshore, Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, and Lake Ontario. So being aware that there could be some pockets, even that west end of Lake Ontario, like Burlington, Hamilton, stretching back towards London, those could be some tricky areas with a bit of icing before we see this turning more over to a snowfall event. It stays mostly a rain or a mix event for southwestern Ontario, so your amounts will be much more negligible, but the amounts that we're going to see elsewhere, we definitely do have some heavier snow pockets where we're talking over 20 centimeters. When I come back, I'll show you the details on those accumulations.
Thanks, Colette. Well, this coming weekend will likely be a big one for holiday parties, but health officials are urging people to think twice about heading out if they're not feeling well. An uptick in flu cases is being observed among children right now, and there's concern that we could see a wave of cases in the weeks ahead. Lorenza Redekop reports.
Sick Kids says its testing shows a hard-hitting strain of influenza A is rising. And in Ottawa, their children's hospital says it's seeing a huge number of influenza cases that could continue to grow after seeing the most ever RSV cases in a single month in November.
We usually don't have so many kids admitted to the hospital or admitted to the ICU with influenza, so it's quite concerning, the severity.
This pediatrician and infectious diseases expert says both the flu and RSV seasons started early. She says it's unpredictable.
My big concern is, though, that this hasn't reached many of the Indigenous communities yet. And once it does, you have all these Indigenous children that are in locations without hospitals.
Orange Air Ambulance has seen a huge spike in children it's transferred this fall, with some pediatric ICUs full. New numbers show that from December 1st to 12th, Orange transferred more than 40 kids due to respiratory issues, way more than previous years. It's in addition to more than 500 total transfers of children in October and November. Today, the Premier and Health Minister announced the province is replacing Orange's 8 planes.
Guys, how are you?
Those do 15% of the service's transfers. It's also considering expanding the fleet. When it comes to the flu, it's not just kids being affected.
We're already seeing adults come into the hospital with influenza. I mean, it started weeks ago.
He expects with the holidays just weeks away, cases will likely grow. Dr. Bogosh would like health officials to start pop-up vaccine clinics and offer masks in public places. Lorenza Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
After facing massive problems with delays and cancellations earlier this year, Toronto Pearson is trying to help the huge influx of travelers who will be arriving and departing over the next few weeks.
Best thing that you can do is to check your flight status before you leave for the airport, check the weather, make sure that there's no snow or rain or inclement weather that's going to impact your travel time. So just be mindful of those things. It is winter, it's Canadian winter, so we will expect some snow, and just to be prepared for that as well.
The airport says people can save time by booking a spot in the security line or uploading travel documents in advance. Travelers are also reminded that if they are carrying gifts, leave them unwrapped when going through security. The airport says at its peak during the holiday season, they can have as many as 130,000 travelers. An event in the city's East End is raising money for hundreds of local families this holiday season. Tonight's Mystique is billed as a night of magic, music, and BIPOC talent. Tyler Cheese has more from the annual event hosted by the Toronto Raptors assistant coach.
There's too much gaming systems.
For Toronto Raptors assistant coach Jamal Magloire, tonight is about giving back to the community.
It's very important to me, being born and raised in Toronto, being a part of the Raptors family.
But this isn't just a celebration, it's also an opportunity to keep raising funds to help families in need over the holiday season. This event, held at the Dawn on the Danforth, is expected to bring in another $25,000.
I mean, being poor, growing up in this city, seeing some of the challenges that I went through as a kid coming up, and having a chance to be able to change that, however little or however much it is, it just means a lot more to me probably than anybody else. And that's why I do what I do.
The Jamal Magloire Foundation, which is also collecting funds online, says donations will go towards supporting hundreds of GTA families. Grocery retailer Longo's has partnered with the foundation, agreeing to match every donation made. Many of Magloire's Raptors colleagues came out to support the event.
I'm new to Toronto, so I just wanted to come and show my support.
Everybody have fun and donate some money for the right cause, and help some families. And I feel like support Big Cat on what he's doing, which is a good thing. We got a concert, we got a magician. I mean, we got everything. So it's gonna be fun.
It's a lively night of entertainment featuring BIPOC performers, with the Chris O'Day Band providing live music and Canada's Got Talent finalist Savio Joseph headlining with a magic and mind reading show.
As soon as I got the call, it was like, whatever we need to do to make it happen, let's do it. And I'm super, super excited to be here for such a great cause, and I'm really looking forward to tonight.
Magloire is reminding people it's important to find ways to give back, not just during the holidays, but all year round.
The reason why we're here tonight is because so often than not, there's people out there that don't have an opportunity to have a hot meal.
Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
And there's a live look at the Toronto skyline. A few clouds tonight, sitting at around -4. And Colette's back now with our extended forecast. And Colette, you mentioned we'll be seeing some snow later this week.
Yeah, I tell you, tomorrow's really the day to prepare for what's coming Thursday. Those who can work from home, great idea if you can do that, especially for the afternoon commute, perhaps more so than the morning one on Thursday. So I showed you the special weather statement that's been issued through most of eastern and southwestern Ontario into the GTA. We'll likely see as we get closer to Thursday some of these upgraded to some warnings, but we'll keep you posted on that. And the timeline, so for tomorrow morning, we're still looking at kind of a mix of sun and cloud. At times we'll have some decent sun into the Golden Horseshoe region. Even back towards southwestern Ontario, you'll see more cloud cover there, but Wednesday's still a prep day. Now Wednesday evening, it comes in mostly as rain or a mix through these regions from Windsor to Sarnia. London, you kind of get on that borderline where we could see some significant freezing rain or even some ice pellets in there through the time being as we go into Thursday morning, and then see how it changes over. Yeah, it will change over to some heavy wet snow, pretty significant snowfall rates, meaning there could be times where within 3, 4, 5 hours we've picked up 10 centimeters, and that's hard for the plows to stay on top of. Then, as this is, taking you right through your rush hour on Thursday, then it moves on into eastern Ontario, becoming heavier there late Thursday and into Friday. So we're still going to be looking at some flurries or even some drizzle close to the lakeshore Thursday night into Friday. And then with that refreezing on top of some of the snow, it can just be really, really slippery. Difficult on the roads, but tough on sidewalks as well, so you really have to be careful. The potential here, you see that darker blue, that's the chance where we could be talking about some pockets having as much as 20 centimeters or more. Elsewhere, there's a very large area where we're talking of it being more of a 10 to a 15, and beyond that, lesser amounts like just traces because it's mostly rain. into southwestern Ontario. Strong winds to go along with this. Some of these wind gusts are going to exceed 70 kilometers an hour. So as snow falls and it's blowing around, reduced visibility. We also have to think about the risk of getting into some power outages. So that's another problem. Overnight tonight, your temperatures falling off, and then they'll be coming up as the storm gets here. But looking ahead to Thursday, make sure you're planning and trying as much as possible to be off the roads.
Thanks for that, Colette. A Toronto plumber is doing his part to make the holidays a happier time for some with less to smile about. He's organized the Smile Drive, delivering handwritten cards to seniors in long-term care homes across Toronto.
Delivering all over the city. So we've been in touch with the program coordinators at a lot of these long-term care homes, and our goal is to get one card per resident in these homes. As much as it's nice to give, it feels good to give as well. So, if anyone is thinking about doing something, it's not just for the other people, it's for yourself as well.
Burke started the Smile Drive last year after seeing the news stories about seniors being isolated during COVID-19. He says this year it's more personal with an aging family member entering long-term care. Last year, he delivered more than 2,000 handwritten cards, while this year, Burke hopes to bump that number to well over 3,000. And that's our show for you tonight. Thanks so much for watching. We'll leave you now with a look at some tasty artwork unveiled today at the first ever Toronto Gingerbread Festival. The event was held by the Yonge and St. Clair BIA. Dozens of Toronto-inspired gingerbread houses were on display. Have a great night.